Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure now to introduce a different kind of warrior, a warrior who didn't serve with a uniform but served as a mother. Many of you will understand the plight of a parent that will do anything for a suffering child, whether a legislative body deems that action to be legal or illegal. Miko Hester Perez is a true warrior as a parent, as an advocate, and one of the leading individuals in our country pushing the ball forward with respect to children's advocacy as a result of her experience with her poor son. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about the different forms of advocacy that she is involved with, and a new and very troubling issue that has been presented in the last few years, and that is the issue of parental negligence. A whole new area of law that is developing where a parent seeks to give a suffering child medicine, and as a result of a state's illegality, a principal or a nurse or a doctor or a teacher reports that parent, and then that parent is arrested for caring for their child. Miko, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Sure, it's absolutely a pleasure. So let's start with your path. What brought you to the world of cannabis and cannabis advocacy?
So in 2009, my son was given 6 months to live with the association of taking medications to treat his autism symptoms. I remember driving home from a doctor's appointment, and I had a 9-year-old who was 42 pounds, and I could see the bones in his chest. I was a legal researcher, and my son just ended up being my biggest case after locating a journal that was written by Dr. Bernard Rimland, who is the godfather of autism. He created the Autism Society here in America. And so he had written a paper that stated that cannabis was a viable option for children on the spectrum. And I remember preparing the case and for my next doctor's appointment. And as a team, we all decided that Joey was definitely a candidate for cannabis therapies. 3 months later, I went on Good Morning America and went public and told the world that cannabis was a safe and effective treatment option for persons on the spectrum. I remember leaving the set of Good Morning America, and my entire life had changed. I had provided a safe and effective option for parents all across the country. I had no idea the impact that I would have made on that day. Since then, I've been on every major network in several countries, and I continue to fight on behalf of special needs families.
Well, thank you for everything you do there. Thank you. I know this has been a difficult week for you emotionally, and we've talked about that. I'm a dad too. And you touch me in so many ways. Let's talk a little bit about what happens for you in doing good and why that leads to a bad week for you.
My son and I created a window of hope for families all across the country. At the time when he was given 6 months to live, I thought, there's nothing you can throw at me that I can't catch. I'm a special needs mom. So 2011, Joey was diagnosed with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. I had no idea with cannabis that I was knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone and providing life extension for my son and on a whole new level. And I started out as an autism mom, but ended up speaking on behalf of every single patient in palliative care, end-of-life care. I had to not reinvent my advocacy, but really do what we did before, and that's opening more doors, working with more healthcare professionals. And last year, Joey passed away. I am and will always be forever grateful for the cannabis community who opened their doors to me. And I will be grateful for being my son's mother. And initially when Michael asked, I said, I've only decided to do one interview this year, and I did it a couple of months ago. And so I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to be here, and as I look around and see so many faces, we all share the same common goal, and that's research, that's life extension, that's doing what's right, paying it forward. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here, and one of the reasons why I will always be an autism mom first.
So the challenge for you emotionally is in your healing and experience with all these other suffering children and parents. I imagine that creates a sense of PTSD for you because you are triggered by their suffering when you should be healing yourself.
Every time a family comes into my office, or every time a patient comes into my office, above each 2 chairs and a couch, there's a picture of my son. So I never lose sight of the why. And parents, when they come into my office, they have no idea that they're helping me cope. They're helping me heal. We have conversations that typically other families would not even understand. Special needs families, we speak a completely different language. And so when parents come in and they talk about certain things that their children do, I automatically know what they're talking about. And it becomes a comfort conversation for me. And I do let every family that walks into my office know that I'm not here for a product. I'm not here for, I'm here as Joey's mom. I'm here to help you navigate and to get through this successfully.
Thank you. I can't imagine the daily struggles and emotional things that you go through. So simply where I see it as that Joey's life was a gift as short as it was for all those other families. So thank you for your courage and efforts going forward for all those other families. Let's talk about some legislation that you've been working on that could potentially have an effect for all of those families, not only here in California, but across America.
Yeah. So within the last 5, 6, 7 years, I've been working with healthcare professionals, some of the top healthcare hospitals in the country. And what I do is I'm their liaison. And so because I'm helping their patients, or they're sending their patients directly to me, I'm actually providing them with a consult. And because of my son, I include the entire medical team. So sometimes, the patient is either before, after, or during cancer. But the question is why can't cannabis be a part of a regimen inside of a hospital? I have a lot of patients that come to me and say, can I give this to my son in the hospital? Can I give this to my grandmother? Or my grandmother would rather have cannabis than some of the morphine. And so recently there's a law in California, it's called Ryan's Law. And I was able to participate in why I believe in Ryan's Law. And I think everyone in here should read Ryan's Law, because Ryan's Law will open the doors to that healthy conversation with your physicians. It is really important, especially with patients who come into my office, that there is a healthy conversation that is happening. And so I do my best to be that segue, to be that bridge. And Ryan's Law will be one of the first laws to take that step to promote that healthy conversation.
Thank you. So let's now move into the issue of your advocacy for not only the suffering children, but for the parents that are struggling to help those suffering children, but then penalized for helping.
So, when we started the Adult Act here in California, I saw something that was missing. And I actually see it across all states in which autism is included on a medical marijuana bill. State laws have not been amended. So every time a child has an allergic reaction or any type of blood test, or any time you walk into a hospital, your physician is obligated to contact Child Protective Services. It has not been amended. Therefore, when you have the cannabis industry that has helped so much to get us here, and I don't think that it's been forgotten, I just don't think that they understand the dynamics in our home. And now with the Adult Use Act, you have parents who walk into dispensaries purchasing for their children without caregivers' licenses. So we're setting families up to fail and to be further harassed by Child Protective Services. And so I believe, one of very few advocates that can actually intervene in Child Protective Service cases all across the country. I sit on the Normal Women's Alliance, which that particular title allows for me to write letters or even appear in court. As a legal secretary, I had to choose between law school and autism. And here I am for the state of California, intervening in CPS cases to vet out families for social workers. We really need to take a really good look at that to support families here in America, or families in which we have states that have autism as a part of their medical bill. Here in California, it's 1 out of 20 children. That's 1 out of 20 homes who are turning to cannabis that we're not supporting. So we definitely need to take a look at investing more into amending the state negligence laws here in California.
And what is the process to do that, Migo? Is that education, which seems to be the buzzword of the day, at the legislative level,
Yeah.
meaning educating our legislators who probably also have children?
Right.
As to what this process is, or are there other things that I'm not thinking
So
about?
we definitely need to take the legislative route. I mean, we can do this locally and we can take it to the state, but it needs to be addressed.
Thank you. What are the things that we as civilians can do to help this process?
That's a really good question. Contact advocates like myself to create and get the funding that we need to amend the state negligence law in California so we can support families, and we could have more pediatricians and more health professionals stand up on behalf of the children and the cannabis industry. I am only one person, but I believe I have a humongous army behind me that will support. We just need the funding to make this adjustment to support these families. And I think we carry a very large voting bloc here in California.
No question about it. And that voting bloc should incentivize those in office to get those votes, correct?
100% correct.
What do you see going forward? You've been through so many challenges that there could never have been a script for in your life. Life throws you curveballs. You've been thrown the ultimate curveball in the tragic loss of a child. So much you've accomplished. There's so much more to do. What do you see over the next couple of years prior to eventual federal legalization as more states fall and become legalized?
Well, the first step for me has been, I am now the spokesperson for Tikkun Olam, California.
Congratulations. For all those in the audience, why don't you explain what Tikkun Olam is?
Tikkun Olam is a company in Israel that I believe has the only published medical research in the world. And I walk around with a research Bible as I walk into hospitals. And they ask me who I am. And I say, I'm Miko, I'm the liaison. And by the way, here's the research you've been looking for. I was on Good Morning America, and that was one of my goals. I said, my son and I, we are the research. And here I am 10 years later, holding it in my hand with one of the most respected companies in the world that is making it very possible for me to walk through the halls and to sit down with medical directors. So that's number one. And number two, being able to be able to change the state laws with child negligence, with child protective services, with regards to families who would like to use cannabis as a safe and effective option.
Well, thank you for that, and congratulations on that new credential to add to your already very long CV. In the event there is anybody in the room who isn't Jewish, Tikkun Olam, probably two of the most important words of any language. It's Hebrew, and it means healed the world. And any Jew, as part of their education as being a civilian, a humanitarian on this planet, every Jewish parent from day one teaches those two words. It's part of the Jewish DNA, it's part of other cultures' DNA, but we grow up as Jews with that obligation, paying it forward, Tikkun Olam. That is why this company in Israel chose those words. And in closing today, I just want to thank you for your efforts in healing the world. Thank you for your Tikkun Olam. And I hope all of us help in that march forward for healing our world and saving our planet and our suffering children. Thank you very much, Miko. I really appreciate you coming today. We all do. I know the emotional effort that it took you today to get on the stage, and my heart and my love goes out to you and your family. Thank you.
Thank you.